Welcome, everyone. Another Financial 15. Lots of great information. Kevin and I are going back to talk about credit scores. We did a whole video on what credit scores are. Now we're going to go about how do you go check your credit score in Canada. We're going to tackle that today, so you definitely want to stick around.
Yeah, again, this is another part of what credit scores are. We have talked before about what they are and why they are important to you. Today, we're going to find out how you can check it so that you know exactly where you are in that sort of scenario. Now, if you want to find out that other credit score video or any of our other ones, please go to our YouTube channel and subscribe. As I mentioned, there's lots of great content there. You'll be very impressed with what you get, and that's what you want to see. So other than that, please like us on Facebook. And last but not least, as always, please go to our website at beckerorr.com. Events, blogs, videos, lots of information for you, help you with your financial situation going forward. But today we are talking about how to check my credit score in Canada. And that is a big one because does it apply to something? Does it hurt me? How are things going to go? Clint, what are we talking about when we're dealing with how you can get your credit score going forward?
Yeah, we're going to go through some details. We'll even pull up a few websites that allow you to check the credit score. So we'll get a good play-by-play on exactly how to do that. First, we need to kind of explain the difference, a reminder between a credit report and your credit score. Two different items. Your credit report is really a summary of your credit history, and the credit report is created when you borrow money. You apply for a loan for the first time, you apply for a mortgage. The lenders are going to send information about your account to the credit bureaus. They create the credit report. So that's kind of like the full history of your lending in Canada. The credit score, though, Kevin, that's a little different, right?
Yes. Yeah, that's the 3-digit number that comes from the information from your credit report. So as they always talk about, if you're going to get a mortgage, you have to have a credit score, say, over 500. Or if you've got 750 credit, then you have really great credit. They're going to lend you something. That 3-digit number is actually the credit score that you get. And again, that shows how well you've managed your credit and how risky it would be for the lenders moving forward. And that's the biggest criteria or one of the biggest criteria they use in deciding whether to lend money to people or not. And of course, that comes from your credit reports.
Exactly. And now we mentioned the lending institutions will send money to send information to the credit bureaus. So we have to talk a little bit about the credit bureaus because that's also one way you can get your credit scored or check it is by contacting the credit bureau. So in Canada, there's two main credit bureaus, the Equifax and Transunion. Those are the two big ones. They are private companies. They're for-profit companies, and they collect information from the creditors, the banks, the credit unions about your financial experiences in Canada. So the banks, credit unions are sending information to these parties, to Equifax and Transunions. They create the report, they calculate the score, and then when you apply for a loan, that financial institution will probably contact one of these bureaus to get information about you, about your report, about your score, so they can determine whether or not you're a good risk for that loan. So those credit bureaus are key. That helps answer the first question, the main question, the whole purpose of the video here, Kevin. How do you check your credit score? Well, one way is you can contact the credit bureaus, right? That seems like a no-brainer. They got all the info. Why don't you start by going to contact them?
Yeah, I mean, that's the first place you want to go, either to the Equifax or the TransUnion if you can. Banks contact them, your credit unions contact them. It is really that whole scenario where you want to find out what the credit score is. These are the places to go. They are the ones that are going to give you that sort of scenario. So if we take a look at the Equifax scenario, this is actually the Equifax website where you would go. And as you can see right off the top, free Equifax credit score and report. You start your access online. So that's a big factor. Remember that this is a free one from Equifax, and they will be able to give you what the score is going forward based on the summary of the factors and everything else that's going through there, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. Equifax.ca, and then you could easily find this page, the free Equifax credit score. Important to note, when you hit this button, the big orange button, start online access, you have to fill in a form. You're essentially becoming a member, so you have to give them all your data, and you're signing up. There's no cost, but I imagine you're probably going to get emails and communication from Equifax from then onwards. You kind of give them all your info, but they will send you the report. You will get a free credit report if you contact Equifax, and you can do it right from their website. So we mentioned the two big credit bureaus here, Kevin. So that's the first one, Equifax. And I'm going to dig up the second one here, Transunion, so you can kind of compare and contrast.
Yeah, the second one is Transunion that it's go. And again, it's similar to what you're getting from Equifax. And remember, what we're dealing with here or dealing with your credit score is the difference sort of between soft and hard as well. A soft credit score check is when you're checking and it's really not something that, is really going to affect your score. Whereas a hard one, you're applying for a loan or something along those lines. That does affect what your credit score is going to be. And as we've mentioned here, this is the Transunion one. Again, you got to click to get on, and they will show you exactly what's going on. where their services are and everything else. But one thing to remember about this component to Equifax, as it mentions right up top, the Equifax one is free. Transunion isn't free though, is it, Clint?
No, I'm zooming in here. This is their site. I click the button saying, yeah, I want my report. And you can see right here, plain as day, they got a cost about $25 a month because this is technically credit monitoring. It's a whole different service. They're going to have different functions and features to monitor your credit report if there's any changes, if anyone accesses it. So there's a cost for that. So it's a different feature. They don't just have here's a free report. They have a whole monitoring service that you'd be signing up for, which could be worthwhile. I mean, it's up to you to make that decision. But if the goal is just to check your credit score, that simply, well, TransUnion might not be the option for you. And you made a very good point earlier about soft hits versus hard hits, because often folks that might be a little concerned, well, I keep checking my score to make sure I'm on top of it. Is the fact that I'm checking the score impacting the actual score? And the answer was no, right? If you're not applying for a loan and you're just checking, you're not going to do too much damage.
Yeah, and you just may want to do that so you're safe and you can realize, well, you know, I haven't checked it in the last 6 months or a year, and I may be looking to apply for something. Do I think my credit's still good, or has something changed in that point? But you're right. I mean, if it's just checking it, you're not really doing anything with it. That's the soft part. If you are doing something with it, then yeah, those scores do count against what you're going to get the number of times you check that score going forward.
We talked about you said, how do you check your score? You said you can go right to the credit bureaus. We gave you the two big ones here in Canada and what those websites look like, how you can access them. Another way you can check your credit score is you can go to the third parties. You can do the agencies, so kind of an indirect route, but there are lots of options there as well. Now we're going to go through two, and there's lots, so don't think this is an exhaustive list, but we're just giving you other ways you can check your credit score in Canada. I'll pull the first one up here, Kevin. It's called Borrowell. It's they actually do quite a bit of data analysis. We've used some of their data and some of our prior videos, but this one here, again, it's Borrowell. It's right on their website, borrowell.com. You sign up for free, pretty straightforward. But again, like Equifax, you are signing up. You're becoming a member.
That's
so
right.
You're going to give them your contact info. I imagine there'll be some additional emails there, but I wanted to mention this. You can see I click the button. It goes right to the next page. I'll zoom in here so you can see. Right below, they say by clicking you create, and where do they get the info? They clearly said they get it from Equifax.
So yeah, and I mean, basically with only two big credit bureaus, you're really, any of these other sites are basically probably going through one of those two to get your credit score. The other one that we've always taken a look at, and you've probably seen many times on advertisement on TV, is Credit Karma. That's a big one that everybody wants to know. You check your Credit Karma score, they'll tell you whether you're good for this or whether you're good for that. But again, this is another third-party agency site. Now, on their website, they don't actually mention who they use, but they are a third-party place. So they are going to one of the big bureaus that is collecting that scenario and putting those reports out. And then again, they'll show you what goes on. It's the same thing. You're signing up, you're creating an account, and so they're going to be able to give you information that you need from there. And they may solicit for things off that one. But those are some of the other sites that you can go to. As I say, there's a variety of different ones. Those are just two that we're dealing with. And again, we're not talking about whether or not that's going to affect. Usually, if you're just checking, it's a soft check. You don't have to worry about it. They'll go to the big ones if you're actually getting a lending scenario.
Yeah, and if you do check your scores, say, hey, I went to the Equifax one, I went through Credit Karma, and I ended up with different scores. That certainly could be the case. A reminder, credit bureaus, now we're going back to Equifax and TransUnion, they have more than one score. They don't just calculate one credit score. They have different models. They calculate different scores, and the models aren't the same between the two. So the Equifax score could be different than the TransUnion score. So it is possible you can end up with different numbers. So I wouldn't get too hung up on that. It's likely not going to be a dramatic change. One's not going to be 900 and the other 400. That'd be a little drastic. They'll probably be very much in the same ballpark, but just keep that in mind. You check multiple spots, you could end up with slightly different scores, and that would likely be common just because of how the bureaus are set up. But a good question here, Kevin, is how often should people actually be checking their credit score?
Yeah, I mean, you should do it on an occasion. I mean, every now and then people just want to know. So, I mean, if you check it once a year, it's probably not bad. You probably don't want to check it every week or every 2 weeks, but on occasion is very good. Or the other one is sort of the event. If you say you declare bankruptcy and you're rebuilding your credit, you may want to check on events coming up, or how is my credit getting better? Or, you know, you didn't qualify for a loan. Why didn't I qualify for a loan? That's an event that I want to know. So that's another occasion that you may want to check your credit score. Because again, if you haven't done this and you don't know the reason why you've been declined and they just say, well, your credit score is here, you may want to find out more about what that is. So the event option is definitely something where you should be checking your credit. On occasion, just may be, you know what, I haven't had a credit check in 3 years. I haven't really applied for anything. Do I still have good credit, or have I been missing payments on my bills and all of a sudden my credit's no good? Maybe I got to improve it again from there.
Yeah, and on occasion isn't a bad thing because sometimes there's
Nope.
inaccuracies, right? These credit bureaus have files and millions of people. They might get 1 or 2 digits wrong. So checking on occasion is probably just prudent to make sure that what
Mhm.
they have is appropriate and there's not an inaccuracy there that'll later impact your score and your ability to get
That's right.
credit. So on occasion, it makes sense. And then, like you mentioned, if there is an event, monitoring services, we'll just bring this up because we looked earlier. Remember the Transunion site? That's really
That's
what
right.
they're selling was a monitoring service. They didn't have a free credit check option, at least not on the website we visited. The monitoring service is a little more broad based, right? They're going to check regularly. They'll notify you if there's a change. It's really, in my mind, you certainly can consider that, but it's mostly, in my opinion, if there's been like an issue of fraud, now you want to stay on top of it to make sure you
Yes.
kind of rebuild in the correct way. Or like you said, you had a big event, you went through a bankruptcy, now you're diligently building your credit. Well, maybe a monitoring service will help you do that better.
Yep.
So you have a couple of options there where it could make a lot of sense to consider these, but just keep in mind, this is not a free credit check. There's definitely
No.
a fee for this kind of service. So you have to bear that in mind.
Yeah, it would definitely not be any different than an alarm system on your home. I mean, you pay to have that service monitored every month. Same sort of scenario is going to go on with your credit. It's just a different one that's online. And again, if you have any chance that you want to ask us questions on your credit score or any of the other videos we put out there, please feel free to chat with ClintonandKevin.com. You can go there. We'll answer the questions that we can, help you out with your financial plan or whatever else is going on. But otherwise, I think we've done another episode of credit scoring today, and there's probably more to know about credit scores down the road, which we may bring you at a later date. But I think today you've covered it well. We've taken a look at how you can check your credit score and what it does to your credit bureau overall.
I think that covers it. Take care, everyone.